I didn't mean to cut you off. Good morning, everybody. Hello and welcome to Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Church in Pasadena. Welcome to all members, friends, and guests here in person and virtually. My name is Myrna Peterson, and I am now officially a past member of your Board of Trustees. Neighborhood Church creates and grows an inclusive community of faith connected by love, spirit, and service. We acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples, the traditional caretakers of the lands and waters of this campus. With respect for the rights and wisdom of Indigenous people, we acknowledge our harmful colonial histories and commit to decolonizing our own practices, to learning new ways of being in community, in good relationship with the Indigenous people of this land and with the land itself. Today's service is led by our interim minister, Reverend Dr. Teresa Cooley, with music by music director Dr. Zenaida Robles and Wells Lang. Please take this moment to silence your devices as we begin our service. Thank you for joining us as we continue to prioritize connection over perfection in this hybrid service, which is streamed and recorded on YouTube. Families with young children are welcome in the sanctuary or the narthex, and there's also childcare in the preschool building for preschool-age children and younger. Kids K through 8 will meet at the picnic tables behind Neighborhood House with Matt and Hannah. Join Lark Mattis Ruffner and Lindy Lindeman for our summer drop-in chalice circle starting today at 11:30 in the Neighborhood House living room. The Globe Forum will meet in the dining room also at 11:30. Save the dates of June 17th and 18th, the 17th for cooking prep work and the 18th for the annual Juneteenth celebration. Our order of service and more extensive announcements are available as a link in the Sunday email posted in the narthex or through the QR code on the back of your hymnal. You can always get more information on these and many other activities at the welcome table. Again, welcome to Neighborhood Church, whoever you are and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. Welcome to this inclusive faith community connected by love, spirit, and service.
If you weren't awake before, now you are. That's great. It's such a gloomy day. Let us brighten it a little bit by greeting one another. Stand if you're willing and able and say good morning to each other. All right, thank you. We could just do this all morning long. Thank you. It's lovely to feel so much joy in the room. We light our chalice today to illuminate our way toward love. Inside the womb of this waiting time, we are bathed in sounds, floating in love, growing out of our comfort zone. We experience love, sorrow, pain, and joy. There's a numinous quickening as we await a new world yet to be born. Let us worship together.
Our opening hymn is number 347 in your gray hymnal or on the screens above. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing number 347, Gather the Spirit.
Giving is a spiritual practice through which we put our values into action. Each Sunday, our congregation dedicates 100% of its contributions to a local social justice organization or activity. In addition to the plate, online giving is available using the QR code on the donations box just outside the sanctuary or using the text instructions shown on the screen. If you wish to make a payment toward your pledge or contribute to church operations, make a note in the subject line or use an envelope available at the donation box. This week, our gifts go to the Laurel Foundation. Here to tell us more is Elias Naranjo. Elias?
Hello. Thank you all for having me today. I'm going to have some slides on the screen if you want a little bit of visual what we do. My name is Elias. I'm from the Laurel Foundation. I use he, him pronouns, and thank you so much for letting me be here today. I actually haven't stepped inside a church in many years, but it's very, very beautiful in here, so I really thank you all for that. Thank you. So a little bit about you can go to the next slide also. A little about the Laurel Foundation is that we have been creating programs and camps for the last 30 years. This was a response to the HIV epidemic. So this is some pictures from the 90s when it was just getting started. You could go to the next slide. So the CEO, Margot, she created this in response to it. Because we believe that camp is so life-changing, and creating those spaces for youth is so important to their growth and development, and also to be in a place where everybody is experiencing a similar thing in their life is also just as important. As you guys know, community is really important. And the next slide is good. My name is Elias. Like I said, I'm the outreach coordinator, family relations, so I work directly with the families, doing outreach efforts, trying to get people to come to the organization. That's mostly what I do. I come to these things, and I also am part of the community as well, so it's something that's very close to me. Next slide. So like I mentioned, we're a nonprofit. We do summer camps, but we also do a bunch of different programs. I don't think I'll go through all the slides, there's a lot of them, but I just wanted to show you a couple of pictures of what we've been doing. Next slide is good. So Camp Laurel, this is our camp for youth affected by HIV and AIDS. This is a camp for ages 6 through 17. It is an opportunity to give these kids to go outside. We have a lot of kids coming from LA, and unfortunately, there is still a big stigma around HIV, and because of that, a lot of these people are marginalized and lower income, so a lot of these kids have never been to the mountains, have never been camping. So we give these kids an opportunity to experience that and kind of leave the worries behind at home so they can come and just be a kid. And that's what the Laurel Foundation's been doing for the last 30 years, and we have a camp coming up. It's July 29th through August 5th. It's going to be in Big Bear Lake. Still have spots for that. If anyone is interested in it, can always, or knows somebody, to pass that word down, because it's a really great camp. We're completely free. And we offer transportation from LA. So basically, all you have to do is show up, and we're going. You know. The next slide. So Camp Mulberry, this is a newer camp. We've been doing this for 7 years, and it was kind of a call to action because the transgender and gender diverse community needs a lot of protecting and help, especially the youth. So we created this safe space where kids can go to camp and not worry about being misgendered or not being seen as their authentic self. And that is something that's really, really important to us. So these kids come and they can just be who they want to be. No one's telling them to do anything. They just show up as they are, and we just take them and accept them. And that's something that I really enjoy about the Laurel Foundation and the people that work with them. Aside from being a camp that we have with trans youth, we're just a regular camp. We do archery, we do swimming. Just the aspect of it is that everybody is transgender, gender diverse, which I think is a really sweet and touching moment. And we're the only free camp for transgender youth. And basically a lot of camps are like queer related, but this one's just for trans youth, and we're one of the only in the nation that is actually like that. Next slide. Thank you. So camp counselors and volunteers, how do we get them? Any of y'all could be volunteers. We love people from the neighborhood, especially in Pasadena. We're right up the street. We're always looking for people that are responsible, respectful, great with kids, also great role models in their own community, have an understanding of what these kids are going through in their life. You may not understand everything, but empathy, it plays a really big part of it. And a lot of the counselors, because Camp Laurel's been around for 30 years, a lot of the counselors are actually past campers and kind of passing that on because their kids are now coming to Camp Laurel, which is really sweet to actually see. Next slide. So just a little rundown of what you really have to do because you're working with kids and we take that really, really seriously, and you're staying with kids overnight for 6 days, which is also something we are really mindful about. We're an ACA, American Association Camp accredited. So we follow all their rules, and we also do 2-day training, which is actually happening right now in Pasadena. We do life scans, reference checks. We ask for a physical and a TB. And once you basically pass those couple of interviews, you're in. But we get a lot of people that are social workers, therapists, people in the community that come to volunteer with us, which makes it all that special. Next one. So yeah, this is a little bit of activities we have. We do kayaking, rope courses, paddleboarding, hiking. We're gonna be at Big Bear Lake, so we're gonna be swimming in the lake, and that's gonna be really exciting. We do a lot of arts and crafts. So basically traditional camp. Next slide. Some pictures here. This is from last year. We were able to, we love doing the high ropes. It's always really fun for the kids. And we had somebody from another organization come and make puppets with the kids, which is a really big hit. Next one. A little bit more pictures. You could go through these slides too. This is Camp Mulberry. This is our trans youth camp. Yeah, there you go. What we ask from our campers is basically just to have a physical and a TB within the last year of camp, and a psych and social assessment if they see a therapist. We just ask that because we really want the kid to feel safe and just protected at camp, and we have a help team with us, which are a team of social workers and therapists that come with us, just so if anything arises with the youth, that we kind of know how to address it, especially because these two populations are going through two very different things, but it's just as important. It's good to have people that actually work in the field that understand how to navigate those issues. Next one. Oh, you can skip this one. Next two. So we do a back to school event here in Pasadena for anybody in both of those communities. We distribute about 50 to 100 backpacks with school supplies, and it's usually around school time. And sometimes when we have leftover supplies, we give them to other organizations that we work with if they weren't picked up in time. Next slide. We do a holiday party. This is in December. We do it right up the street. And it's a really sweet time. We have gift giving, and we have a Santa there. We have food. This is a really big hit for us because it's just we do a fundraiser and a toy drive, and we get all these toys donated, and we're able to give toys out to each of the family that come and sign up for this event. Next one. And we also offer Club Leaf. This is during the academic school year. And this is a homework help for anybody in the community. And we do it Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now that school's over, it won't be around, but it's a good reference for people to know that. Next. And some other events. Our events kind of are changing depending on the funding we get because we are a nonprofit. Last year we did a culinary class. We did a voiceover workshop with a professional voice actor. And we did a Camp Mulberry family picnic. So we had a picnic with people from Camp Mulberry, our trans youth camp, and kind of just created a community event of just people getting to know each other if they don't know any other folks with trans kids or gender diverse kids. It was a moment for them to meet and talk, and it was really great. It was at Debs Park in Highland Park. We do a partnership with PAC, which are these students from UCLA, and it's called Pediatric AIDS Coalition, and they help us put on events year-round. And then we also had a Dodger Day, and we were donated a good amount of tickets to take all our families, transportation involved, also to go to the Dodgers game. So that's a little bit about what we've been doing. Is there a next slide? I just have questions. I don't know if we have time for questions, but always take questions. But I really want to say is that I want to thank you all for this opportunity. I will be speaking again next week, which I'm really excited about. Maybe we can go into a little bit more about Camp Mulberry, but I think it's really amazing what you guys are doing and wanting to highlight organizations, and also in Pasadena. But I do want to say that, Pride Month is a month of celebration for some, but not all. And according to the Human Rights Campaign, in 2023, over 540 anti-LGBTQ bills have been introduced in state legislatures, over 220 bills specifically targeting trans and non-binary people. And this is why it's important that we have these conversations, that we get educated, and that allies continue to step up. And I'm just really happy that you guys gave us this opportunity to talk about this. So thank you so much.
Will the plate passers please come forward? Thank you for giving generously.
Caritas abundat. In Latin, it translates, love abounds in all, from the depths, exalted and excelling over every star, and most beloved of all, for to the highest one the kiss of peace she gave.
Please join me in a spirit of prayer, meditation, reflection. Let us take time to ground our bodies and open our spirits. As I share this prayer from my colleague Marcus Liefert. O you who are makers, makers of beauty, of paintings and pottery and sculpture, blessed is the making. You who make with hands and hearts and minds, who make out of breath and bones and blood human lives. Blessed are the makers. Blessed are those who make us laugh, who make jokes and faces and toys. Blessed are those who make messes, who make trouble and friends, and when needed, make up. Blessed are those who make do, who make it last, make it work, make beds, and make time for others. Blessed are those who make coffee and tea, who make conversation, who make meaning in the face of tragedy, who make merriment and awaken joy. Blessed are those who make peace, for they shall inherit the earth. Amen. A few weeks ago, I visited the Academy of Motion Pictures Museum with a friend who was visiting from out of town. Why do we only do these things when friends visit from out of town? Subject for another sermon. I was simultaneously impressed and underwhelmed. It was amazing to contemplate the worlds of human stories that we can enter into through this art form and this technology. We've probably lost the ability to wonder at this technology because we take it so for granted these days. But seeing the story of its development over time made me appreciate again the miracle that it truly is. I was underwhelmed because I thought they missed an opportunity to tell a coherent story. I found it disjointed from exhibit to exhibit, but it did make me think about how the introduction of a new technology into our collective lives has both transformative and dangerous power. There were doomsday predictions about the moral horrors that movies could introduce into our innocent lives, and yet here we are. I've always been entranced by new technologies. At the exhibit, for some reason, there was examples of the first home computers introduced in the 1980s, and there was my little portable K-Pro computer. Anybody else have one of these? I was the envy of my classmates because I could work on a computer instead of typing my papers and having to use rivers of corrective fluid. It was a miracle. How old does that make me feel? Just let me say. When cell phones were introduced, I was in line for the first models that were as heavy as bricks. I remember the furor when the World Wide Web was first introduced and the doomsday predictions that came of the evils that would ensue at that time. And yet, here we are. And here we are again with dire warnings about the end of civilization that will come with the rapid development of artificial intelligence technologies. When the very inventors of a new technology come together to warn of its implications, you have to pay attention. It's not that I am unaware of the dangers, both present and future. With every technology that is introduced, our very understanding of the human experience changes, and not always for the better. Psychologist and social historian Sherry Turkle has written several excellent books about the implications of how computer technology has changed our lives. In her book, Alone Together, she says this: technology presents itself as a one-way street. We're likely to dismiss discontents about its direction because we read them as growing out of nostalgia or a Luddite impulse or simply in vain. But when we ask what we miss, we may discover what we care about, what we believe to be worth protecting. We prepare ourselves not necessarily to reject technology, but to shape it in ways that honor what we hold dear. Winston Churchill said, "We shape our buildings and they shape us." We make our technologies and they in turn shape us. So of every technology we must ask, does it serve our human purposes? A question that causes us to reconsider what those purposes are. Technologies in every generation present opportunities to reflect on our value and our direction. These are not just lifestyle questions, they are theological questions. They ask us to consider the ultimate purpose of life, the meaning that we make out of our interactions, the ways in which we can be encouraged to live a good life, or led down the path of idolatry or even evil. And certainly we can look at the effects of technology in the present day and ask whether they are serving us or are we serving them. The isolation that has come about by losing ourselves in our devices rather than interacting with others, the declining level of empathy that we see because we don't experience each other in all of our human complexity. The desire that some people have now to have uncomplicated and undemanding relationships with artificial intelligence because human relationships are too messy and challenging. All of these are legitimate and deeply concerning social developments. Sherry Turkle talks about reading a book called Love and Sex with Computers. And she had some challenges with it. She was interviewed by Scientific American, asking her what she thought about it, and she shared her reservations, and the interviewer told her she was being speciesist. That she was denying robots the ability to have sex. Enough said. Sherry Turkle also describes taking her daughter to an exhibit at the American Museum of Natural History that was trying to show the ways in which Darwinian theory has changed the world. At the entrance to the exhibit, they had two huge tortoises from the Galapagos, where Darwin did most of his research. These were live tortoises who were not very interested in what was going on around them. One was hidden from view and the other one was sleeping. And her daughter looked at them very thoughtfully and said, they could have used a robot instead. So Turkle started asking the other families who were around whether they thought the same thing. And another 10-year-old girl said, yeah, she would prefer a robot because the live thing looks too gross. She thought she would learn more from something that moved in the ways that she saw in movies rather than the boring lumps in front of her. The parents were mystified. Isn't it great we have real live specimens, they said? And the answer for the kids seemed to be no. How they experience the very reality that surrounds them has changed for younger generations. She tells story after story about people she's interviewed who prefer the idea of a relationship with artificial intelligence or a robot to that of people, who find comfort in furry robots that simulate care and compassion. She talked with a researcher who discovered that there was a 40% decline in empathy among college students. And she became depressed by her findings. And so her first response was to wonder whether she could develop an empathy app. Let's pause over that for a moment. Clearly, the only way out of our problems with technology is to create new technology. So yes, I can see the problems that can arise with technology. I understand the deep concerns, and I share many of them. And yet I also look at the evolution of technology over the span of human history and realize that we have models of how we can make new meaning from new technologies. In fact, Socrates was deeply concerned about the moral implications of the new technology of writing. He worried that we would believe that which was written down more than we would believe a person speaking. The introduction of the printing press meant that many more people would have access to the wisdom of others. Printing actually contributed to the spread of Christianity because suddenly people could read the Bible for themselves. And interestingly, if you look at the introduction of each new technology, the first application often tended to be pornography. But then pretty quickly, it turns to more noble uses. I think where I come down on all of this when I look at the span of human technological development is that while every development foretold danger, good has also come out of each. We learned how to put them in their proper place over time. That doesn't mean that they don't still present dangers. Even books still deal in untruths and can still be harmful. But we wouldn't say we would ban books unless we want to be like the overzealous parents, seeking to control their children's experience into a version of an untroubled and homogeneous life. There is good that has come and will still come from artificial intelligence. I heard a story recently about soldiers who develop relationships with the robots that help defuse bombs. These are not anthropomorphized robots with faces or human features, but still soldiers will go to great lengths to protect their robots. They give them names, and they mourn them when they are destroyed. To me, this speaks of how we still try to create relationships in our social interactions, whether we're interacting with humans or machines. There are great opportunities to relieve medical professionals of onerous reporting and data compilation, which actually frees them up to interact more with their patients. The question for me is, how do we right-size our understanding of these things? For example, when Alexa and Google Voice came on the scene, people were entranced about this potential for personal help, until we began to realize these are essentially sales products. They help major corporations analyze our behaviors so that they can sell us more things. When we begin to recognize the realities behind these new technologies, then we can modify our usages and better protect ourselves. ChatGPT is all the rage these days, and the worries about how it will subvert education and be purveyors of misinformation are very real and important concerns. But these concerns will not make the technology go away. The question is how we understand that these large language programs are not offering us truth. They're offering us a version of reality compiled from massive data dumps. My colleague and friend Lynn Unger asked ChatGPT to tell her biography. And so it said this: Lynn Unger is a poet, minister, and author. She was born in California and raised in the Bay Area. She received her Bachelor of Arts from Stanford University, her Master of Divinity from Starr King School for the Ministry. Unger is a Unitarian Universalist minister and has served congregations in California, New York, and Maryland. She's also a prolific writer and has published several books of poetry, including Blessing the Bread, Bread and Other Miracles, and Finding the Door. Her poetry is often reflective and meditative, drawing on themes of spirituality, nature, and the human experience. Many of her poems have been widely shared and circulated online, including her poem, Pandemic, which gained widespread attention during the COVID-19 pandemic. It concludes, Unger currently resides in Northern California with her partner and 2 cats. She continues to write and publish poetry, as well as lead workshops and retreats on poetry, spirituality, and mindfulness. So, mostly it was correct, except that she never went to Stanford as an undergraduate. In fact, she didn't get accepted to Stanford. She's never served congregations in New York and Maryland. She and her partner broke up 20 years ago. She now lives in Seattle, and she's obsessed with training dogs, has never even owned cats, among other inaccuracies. So I tried this experiment, and it didn't recognize me. I was devastated until I realized that my cookie blockers were getting in the way. Somebody without cookie blockers can look me up. So is this interesting and helpful? Yes, and sometimes. If we treat its products as absolute truth, will it be dangerous? Absolutely. The same is true of books and social media. We've learned to navigate these things, even if sometimes we do it badly, but I don't believe this genie will be put back into the bottle. Does it need regulation? Absolutely, but can it be stopped? I don't believe it can. To me, the deeper theological question is what Sherry Turkle raised earlier. What do all these technologies tell us about how we want to live? What is important to us in our relationships? How can we grow in empathy and love and understanding? In Turkle's first book, The Second Self, she quotes a 12-year-old boy named David who says this: "When there are computers who are just as smart as people, The computer will do a lot of the jobs, but there will still be things for the people to do. They will run the restaurants, taste the food. They'll be the ones who will love each other, have families, and love each other. I guess they will still be the ones who go to church. Technology and religion need not be opposites or enemies, but they need each other. And we need both lenses with which to view the world. Life is extraordinarily complex, and we need many ways of understanding how to make sense of what we experience. So let us hold on to a view of the whole life, the full life, that which leads us into new understandings of the self, and that which plunges us back into the age-old aspects of being that have been with us since humans first walked the earth. The need to touch and be touched, to heal and to be healed, to love and to be loved, to know ourselves as beings who are not alone, but sustained by others and by the spirit of life itself. So may we move through these days of mystery and wonder. Amen.
Our closing hymn is number 193 in your gray hymnal. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing number 193, Our Faith is But a Single Gem.
In our hungering for meaning, in our aching for friendship, in our yearning for justice, in our hearts remembering of finer days, may we look deep within the mystery of things and gather our strength. May each of us proclaim the graceful power of life and love, and so may we live in hope. Amen.